Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, I'm the Game Boy Guru and welcome to another pickups video. And actually it's not so much pickups as it is a mail arrival. And normally I wouldn't make a video for one package that I got in the mail, but in this case I am because it's a large package with a large number of games. So I wanted to give a shout out to the seller. His name is Crabmaster2000 on rfgeneration.com. Shameless plug. Go check out the site. He is one of the members of the Collector Cast podcast, and he runs a game store in Canada. And so he asked me about PSP games because he knows I'm collecting a full set, and said he had a bunch that he wanted to try and get off his store shelves. So he sent me a list, and I picked through the list and told him what I wanted, and then he sent me back a thing saying, well, here's what I've got, and he sent me a nice box full of PSP goodness. So let's get started. Right on the top we've got Killzone Liberation. I already have the black box original version of this that a friend got for me for Christmas a couple of years back. So thanks to Jeremy for that. But I didn't have the greatest hits version, and of course I'm going for all variants. So gotta have it. Next up, we have Monster Hunter Freedom. Now I'm not into the Monster Hunter series as such. I downloaded the demo on the Wii U for Monster Hunter 3 and played it, and I just didn't get into it. The gameplay just seemed kind of slow to me. But I think that's part of the hook, that you really have to be very specific about your attacks, and you have to plan them out and plan your moves so that you don't get annihilated by the monsters. So it's probably something that if I spent a little time with it and kind of got used to the style, that I might like it. But anyway, it's part of the PSP set. I needed it, so here we go. And getting into the meat of the box, one that I was excited to get because I've seen it in the wild, but always sans manual, and that is EA Replay. And it's a number of classic EA games. I'm assuming that some of these are PC versions, and some of them are either Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis versions. There's Wing Commander and Wing Commander Secret Missions, Mutant League Football, Desert Strike and Jungle Strike, Budokan, Road Rash 1 through 3, and Bob or B.O.B., which came out on, I believe, both the Genesis and Super Nintendo. And then there's also Haunting, starring Poltergeist from the Genesis, which was great. Syndicate, Ultima the Black Gate, which I did not know about, and then Virtual Pinball. So I don't think I've played that. That'll be interesting. We've got Siphon Filter, Dark Mirror, and this is a greatest hits version, but it is an international version, or might be Canadian specific, because it says greatest hits Le Grand Success. It is it's a Canadian release, because it's UCUS is what the part number starts with. So interesting to have a Canadian version of that. And then this is a European version of Tiger Woods PGA Tour 07, or 07 I should say. It is ULES is what the number starts off on the spine. And so the ULES is UMD licensed European something or other. I don't remember what the S is. I looked it up. But in any event, we have a standard US release of FIFA 07 Soccer. We have Hot Shots Golf Open Tee, and I picked up Open Tee 2 a while back, so now I've got the first one. We have another Canadian release, Twisted Metal Head On, and I've got another version of this, and then of course I've got a dual pack with that, but cool to have that. Got Invisimals, and that is let's see here, that is also a Canadian version. US release of Rocket Racers by Konami, or Pocket Racers, excuse me, Pocket Racers. Racing game. Midnight Club LA Remix with nice sort of glossy embossed font there on the case. US release. US release of Mind Quiz, Exercise Your Brain, which apparently also came out for the DS and the PC, I believe. It seems like there were a number of these types of quiz games that came out for the PSP. Between this and the Buzz series and a couple of other sort of brain teaser type games. We've got a greatest hits version of Daxter. The earlier version, or the black label version, I've had for quite some time, and was, I don't want to say one of the first PSP games I bought, but among the first PSP games I bought. So good to have the greatest hits version. US release of Need for Speed Pro Street. The Godfather Mob Wars. So now I have both of the big mob games, movie license mob games on the platform, Godfather, and then I've also got the Scarface game. Battlezone, and I'd be interested to see, this looks different than, there's an Atari Classics Evolved collection for PSP that I have, and it has several original arcade games and then sort of reimaginings of those games. And Battlezone is one of the games on that collection. So it's got the original wireframe version of Battlezone and then sort of an updated wireframe type game. But this does look like it's different than the version that comes on the Atari Classics Evolved collection. So that'll be interesting to give that a try and see how it compares, how it plays. We also have this European release, Football Manager Handheld 2007. Of course, that's European, or what football is known as outside of the North American sphere. We have European release of Worms Open Warfare. A Canadian release of Jeanne d'Arc, aka Joan of Arc, sort of a retelling of Joan of Arc's story with much embellishment and license taken with the story. It's supposed to be a very good game. And Manhunt 2, US release of that. Haven't played any of the Manhunt games yet, so I'll be interested to kind of see that. Supposedly they're incredibly violent and brutal. That's not really my thing. It can be fun at times, like with the God of War series, within context and that sort of thing. But otherwise, just brutality for the sake of brutality isn't really my thing. But the game itself may be interesting just because of what it is. We also have a European release of Michael Jackson, The Experience, and a US release of Michael Jackson, The Experience. And it's interesting to compare the two side by side, where you can see the US release, the picture of Michael is just slightly larger, I think because of the additional text and stuff on the top of the European copy, and then the spines are different. One is colorful and sort of has that wraparound design, and then the other is just white. So interesting. We have a US release of Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects. Kind of looking forward to that. Hellboy, The Science of Evil. I'm a fan of the first Hellboy film, and to a lesser extent the second film. Haven't really got into the comics necessarily, but enjoy the films, so we'll see if that's fun. And then Burnout Legends. I'm not a big racing game fan, but I've recently kind of got into the genre a little bit because PS2 and Xbox games have been so dirt cheap for a while that I was able to pick up tons of them at pawn shops and Goodwill and whatnot. And of course, there are lots of racing games. And I've picked up a couple of the Burnout games, and a friend of mine and I had loads of fun with one of the Burnout games on Xbox a while back when we were playing, and I pulled out the racing wheel, and we really dug that. So I think I will get a kick out of this because I really like that whole idea of just drive really fast and just absolutely crash. We also have US release 50-cent Bulletproof G-Unit Edition. Got one other 50-cent game, or one of the Bulletproof games, I believe. I've got for, I want to say PS2. I'd have to double check. Puzzle Chronicles, always up for a good puzzle game, and PSP is a great place for that. Disney Pixar Cars, and I think this is my third version of this game. I've got it on PS2 and possibly Xbox. God of War Chains of Olympus, and I've had Ghost of Sparta for a while, so I think this is the one I was missing. And that's a Canadian release. And then this is a US release of Smart Bomb by IDOS and Core Design. Looks kind of cool. It's a puzzle game, and it appears to, like, you're disarming bombs and whatnot, but you have literally like a circuit board or things in front of you that you have to figure out how to disarm the bomb. So that's kind of a cool mechanic. There's another racing game, Street Supremacy by Konami. Looks like just muscle cars and imports and whatnot. This is SOCOM, US Navy SEALs Fireteam Bravo, Canadian release, Greatest Hits. I did not have a Greatest Hits version of that yet, nor did I have Canadian version. A US release of Medal of Honor Heroes. I had Heroes 2 for the PSP, and I believe also for the Wii, but did not have the first one. Monster Hunter Freedom 2, US release by Capcom, of course. And as I said before, I'm not really into the series, but I'll check it out. Another Marvel game, Ultimate Alliance. And if memory serves, this one might be a little bit of a RPG. Yeah, epic. It says it's an epic action RPG. So we'll see how epic it is, but kind of looking forward to that one. Medieval Resurrection. Medieval games were a thing on the original PlayStation. I briefly got to play one of them, and so that'll be interesting to kind of revisit that world. That was a Canadian release of that. US release of Tekken Dark Resurrection. I have the black box release, and now I've got the Greatest Hits. And finally, an interesting Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron. It says ULUS, which is the US tag, but it has the French text on it, so I don't know. I'm not sure about that, whether that was mislabeled and should have been labeled as a Canadian release, or if it's that it's ULUS 10292GH-F. So if the -F meant that it's French, so that they just did a US release of the Greatest Hits, and just put that out for all of North America. That could be how they did it. I've had this game for a while. Actually, Renegade Squadron is one of the first games I bought for my PSP, and it's quite enjoyable. And so it's kind of fun to have that with Greatest Hits, and then also the French text there. that's all I've got for you this time. I've got some other people that'll be sending me stuff, and as always, I look to go out and do hunting every chance I get. Hoping to do some possibly end of next week. I've got a work trip I got to take, and so in the next couple of weeks, I may be getting some more stuff in the mail and also having a chance to hunt and go check some stuff out. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and game on.